Hey guys, what is going on? This is Harry from Harry Likes Wrestling again. Welcome to yet another Harry Talks Wrestling. This time, a massive guest on the show, someone that'll really connect to all of my audience, a former backyard wrestler on YouTube turned professional wrestler, and Fred Yehi, one of the happiest guys I've ever met. It's a really it's a really uplifting interview. Like there's so much laughter. We just get on so well. He's a great guy. You guys are gonna love this one especially. He's gonna really connect because I know most of my audience are YouTube wrestlers aspiring to become pro wrestlers. So you guys in particular are gonna love this one. So Fred, as far as guests on the show go, no one really would touch my particular audience more than yourself. Of course, a former YouTube backyard wrestler turned pro. So the first question would be, what was it like growing up as a backyard wrestler on YouTube?
I mean, it was something that it was a hobby. But really for me, because since I was small, I knew it was something that I always wanted to do. Um, but I mean, like it was a really really good social activity that I would do with friends and stuff. I want to say I started when I was like maybe 13, 14. A good friend of mine, he's another backyard wrestler, Melvin Bell. He happened to get a camera for his birthday, and he had a trampoline in his backyard. So it just started there. We just started just recording like little matches. Me, him, his younger brother, he, myself, his younger brother, and a few other friends from middle school, high school, and we would just do these matches and record them, put them on the VHS, and watch them on the big screen TV. Um, and then he would have family, and we would have other friends come by, and they would watch it. And then once we got to high school, we went to different high schools. He would bring the tapes to school, and during the lunch hour, he would take them to the classroom. And like some of the kids, who didn't want to go to lunch, they would stay in the class, and he'd pop the VHS in, and people watching the videos. Um, and then of course, like a few years later, when YouTube began to get popularity, we began to like transfer that footage onto YouTube. So that's like the beginning. That's like the origins of the backyard wrestling, as far as the Fred Yehi backyard wrestling story.
Yeah. And what was it like, sort of, because I know the actual wrestling itself began being recorded around 2004, 2005. I think the videos were being uploaded around 2009, 2010. Was the reception for it fast? Did you gain subscribers quickly, or was it, you gained three every few videos and you get the odd comment?
Um, the subscribers, the way we got our subscribers, well, we did a lot of like legwork. Uh, by that I mean like we would upload a video, and we would network with other backyard wrestling channels. We would seek them out, and we would look through the comments and stuff, and see who was commenting on all the videos. So we would add them, in our circles and that kind of stuff. This is when YouTube was like different. It was easier to do it then.
Yeah.
You could just simply click on a YouTube channel, and they had, like, if I remember, you could just like add them almost like as a friend, just like on Facebook.
Yeah.
And you can like kind of conversate with them now. Now it's a lot. Now there seems to be more steps. You have to go through the Google Plus stuff, and no one really seems to check those that much. Easy just to message people. So we would upload a video, and then by the time we upload this video, we would have already added, say, 300 friends. So we would push this video to like 300 people. Sometimes like 1,000 people in a week. And Melvin and I, a good friend Melvin and I, also the California kid. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him with the GWC Intensity.
Yeah.
He was also helpful as well. But the three of us, we would push these videos out, just to get the stuff out. And the subscribers, they gradually begin to tack on. Yeah, so that was our little system as far as getting subscribers, for that time.
And as a backyard wrestler, I noticed in a lot of your matches, at least a lot of your early matches, you wore amateur wrestling gear, or at least the headset. Do you have a strong amateur wrestling background?
Yes, yes, yes. I wrestled throughout high school. Also wrestled in college. Uh, when you saw the headgear, it was because I had cauliflower ear. I actually had like I want to say I had just gotten the splint. I had just gotten it taken out. So yeah, it was it was pretty painful. It was pretty painful. So I would put that on to help protect that ear.
Yeah.
So I want to say I was like maybe 15 or 16 during that time as well. Yeah, memories, man. But yeah, I had that hairgear on.
Yeah, cauliflower is certainly something my Irish subscribers will know, because a lot of people in rugby get it, and trying to get rid of it is horrible. It's all injections and stuff, isn't it?
Uh, more so suction and injection because it's a buildup of
Yeah,
fluid in the air, and you have to drain that fluid out. So like like I mean that part wasn't so bad, but as I like from what I recall, I wrestled like a good portion of that season with the fluid in that ear, and like I remember the weight from the fluid, caused the ear to like to kind of like droop
yeah,
because just from the weight. So I had to get it like stitched and splinted back the shape of my ear. So yeah, I have a lot of memories of that. Like there's so many little does YouTube know there's so many like videos from during that time, during that 2002 to 2005. Because actually we started filming like in 2002, but there's so many videos that haven't even like gotten online. We put like most of the matches you would see, you would see a lot of the Fuji matches, especially like the Yehi versus Fuji. You would see like a lot of those because like Fuji was almost like he was like our moneymaker. He was like the little phenom, the little 11-year-old kid who was in there with these teenagers. So like
yeah.
that was like that was almost like our little draw for that time. But there's so many videos that haven't even that never made it to YouTube. But at some point, I would like to put those out too for for history's sake and also for laughs and giggles. So
Yeah. And do you remember many specific matches back on YouTube? Anything sort of stand out for you?
let's see. Of course, the Fuji matches; those really stand out. During that time, I knew I wanted to wrestle. I knew I wanted to, and even with backyard wrestling, like my approach was different because I knew that was something that I really wanted to do. I had that burning desire to want to do it. Studying, I would watch these matches with Rey Mysterio and Eddie. I'm trying to remember what was going on during that time. I know Rey Mysterio, of course, was on SmackDown. He would have his matches with Chavo Guerrero, and yeah, he would have his matches with Eddie. Yeah, of course. And I would just try to like transition that, to the trampoline, to the backyard, with those Fuji matches. And of course, like looking back on them now, they're a bit like disjointed, but if you watch them, you can see where I was going with these matches and stuff. But the Fuji matches, those really stood out. They were a lot of fun. Of course, I had some like a few hardcore matches with the Melvin Bell or D Money. He was known as D Money then. We had a few like hardcore matches. And there were like a couple of them where we actually had a little small crowd in the back, just from the neighborhood who just kind of watching on.
Yeah.
There's another guy. If you watch him on BHW now, his name is Kevin King, but he went by Chaos back then. But I had a few like really good ones with him. But Chaos, like myself, he during the time wanted to become a pro wrestler, but then like as the years went on, he kind of went elsewhere. So he and I were kind of like-minded. So like those matches were always like a lot of fun because during that time I didn't have any other friends who were as into pro wrestling as I was.
Yeah.
So those are some of the matches. Those are some of the matches that stood out. yeah, those are the matches that stood out. We just kind of went out there, and a lot of times we didn't really know who was going to win. We didn't really know the ins and outs. We didn't know who was going to win. We just kind of went out there and just felt it out. And so we have like memories even from that kind of stuff, like some funny stories with that, where certain matches never seem to even come to an end because no one, it's turned into a straight fight.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So those are my memories right there. As far as like from that era, like those were the memories from that.
One particular video for me is just, I've watched it probably 40 plus times. It's great. Do you at all remember
Oh
the
wow!
Fred Yehi Wheaties commercial?
yes,
That
yes, the Wheaties
iconic
commercial.
video.
Yes.
I love that video. It's great. It's so good.
Oh man, that was awesome. The Wheaties commercial was awesome. Like the production of that was so cool. The production was so cool with that. We were hyping the interstate tournament finals between myself and Kevin Keene, who was formerly Chaos on our BHW thing. But to give a little history as far as like with that promotion was the GWC, and it was under the GWC. That's Georgia, the Georgia Wrestling Circuit. BWE was that place in particular. We were doing the interstate tournament. We found that group over YouTube. They're located in they were at the time located in Phoenix City, Alabama. CJ Lennon. We got on with that group. The interstate tournament was a lot of fun. We wanted to do something like different for myself and Kevin King. We were really trying to get out there as backyard wrestlers, and we really wanted to like go other places and wrestle too, like out of the state. We really wanted to. So we thought that like, hey, doing like a training segment would be really, really cool. So yeah, the production of that was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun, and for that time, we really felt that the match delivered for that time. But yeah, man, it was awesome.
I am 100%. Just for anyone that is unaware, I'll leave a link to it in the description. But for just an exclusive for such an iconic video, I'm just gonna have, if there is at all a break or anything in this, that's gonna be the break. That's gonna fill the little gap because it's such a funny video, such a good video.
That is awesome. That is awesome.
So looking back then, did you see, like, even before you started training, just when you were doing backyard wrestling as a wrestling fan, did you see yourself at the point that you're at right now?
I never could have like predicted the path. As far as like seeing where I am at this point, yes and no. I say that because during that time, I had no idea that there was like an indie wrestling. I didn't know that there was like this. I didn't know that indie wrestling was like this big. I remember looking through the forums, and I would see like people, the smart marks online talking about the best matches ever in WWE or New Japan or All Japan or and then I remember during that time seeing a Ring of Honor. I wasn't that familiar with that to kind of go out of my way to find it, and I'll always see indies. During that time at 15, 16 years old, I assumed that indies meant something overseas. Yeah. But then I would see all these Americans in this indies thing. I'm like, what is indie? I don't really know what that was. So I never staying as independent wrestling. I didn't know. So but as far as like seeing where I am now, yes and no. Yes and no. Like I knew it's something I wanted to do. Like I wanted to become a not just a star but a big star.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure if I wouldn't consider myself a big star. I don't know. I don't really know. I still know where I like to be as a professional. So like, that's my goal. But yeah, but I did see myself doing it and reaching like a really really high level profession. Uh, so yeah, that answer is yes and no.
And so, because a lot of the fan questions revolve around backyard wrestling, so I guess until we get to them, this is sort of the last backyard wrestling sort of themed question. Um, so what was it like when you were in the locker room at all these indie shows at the beginning of your career, or even nowadays? Did or do the people that you were sharing a locker room know that you came from YouTube, not came from YouTube, but came from doing backyard wrestling on YouTube?
Some of them do. Mainly here in Georgia, like a lot of the Georgia shows, even where I started. They even the name Fred Yehi. It's like that just seems to pique a lot of interest. Like, what Yehi? Where is that? Where did he get that name from?
Yeah.
And then they want to look. They want to look. Who's Fred Yehi? Let me look him up. And then they see the backyard wrestler. Hey, So I've had people. I've had people ask me about it. What is BACW? Hey, you did that backyard stuff? Like, yeah, I did do it. Especially like the first year that's really trying to get out. It was a mixed reaction. Some were, hey, if I were you, I would take that stuff down because it may hinder your career. You don't want people to, if someone were to, be booked to work you, and they want to, look you up and kind of get familiar with you, and they see backyard stuff, they're gonna assume that you don't know what you're doing. I'm like, I mean, I see your point, but I think I want to leave that up. I want to leave my stuff up. I want people to be able to track me, me from my very beginnings. I think that's really, really cool. Of course, now I'm doing the Evolve stuff, and I'm doing more things on bigger stages. Be able to follow my career from the very beginning to see, from the very first time I ever even stepped in ring in the backyard. Like, I want them to see that. I want them to see Fred Yehi when he sucked, when he didn't have any training, and they need to see that.
Yeah.
So I had I had people ask me about it, and people try to advise me otherwise to erase the stuff, delete all the material, and for a while, BACW was, and it still kind of is. It was a bit of a hybrid. We had like backyarders and pros. So I still kind of dabbled into it even during that time after I began my training and and working my shows, and there's no shame in that.
Yeah.
I was proud of it.
And when did you begin training to become professional?
I began my training in it was fall of 2011. So that's when my training began. I was right out of the Air Force. I started my training in PCW, Avondale Estates, Georgia, under Jay Fury and Stephen Platinum.
And
that following year, January, that's when I finally debuted.
And did you ever get the sort of feeling that it was gonna take an incredibly long time to get to your first show?
Let's see. I never really considered the time that it would take. I never really considered that. Like, I was focused. Like, even as a backyard wrestler, my approach was different. It was just different. But no, I never considered the time frame that it would take. I never considered that. Like, at that point in time, like, I knew that I was, I was doing the backyard wrestling, and doing the backyard wrestling, there was no one there who could train us. We kind of learned. I kind of learned on my own. Like, I kind of learned what I had, the skill set that I gathered. Like, that was kind of, me as a student of wrestling, watching, studying the DVDs and the tapes, and just kind of trying to practice the stuff that I was watching, and even watching my own stuff. So, like, when I began my training, I more so wanted to learn it the right way, learn everything the right way, and anything that needed to be tweaked, I was like a sponge, man. I was just soaking everything in and just trying to learn and get good. Like that was my thing. But it didn't take like terribly long for me to finally debut my first like official match. I began my training again in September, and by January following year, I was ready. So that was what 4 months, 4 or 5 months, give or take. So again, I'd say that was due to that's just how hard I was going, and that's how hard I trained, and that's how serious I took my training. So.
And do you remember your first indie match as well, and who they were against and where they were?
Oh yes, definitely. My first indie match was against a guy, Chip Day. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him or not, but he worked predominantly with the AWE here in Atlanta, Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment. He's been out CWE Mid Atlantic. I mean CWF Mid Atlantic. He's been on FIP. He's actually working the Style Battle next weekend. So yeah, but that was my first. Matchup. At that time, Chip Day's work from going to the shows, and as a student, you just going to the shows and seeing what he could do. And I was like, man, this guy's he's really freaking good. Where's this guy been? He reminded me of a Davey Richards, but he just didn't have that same physique.
Yeah.
But his style was just like Davey Richards. Not as technical, but just more strike heavy. But that was my first official match, and yeah, I put my best foot forward, and yeah, we hit a home run. But that match is actually on YouTube. You can actually find it on the VHW channel.
And you mentioned FIP there. You won the FIP championship. What was it like beating Caleb Connolly for the FIP championship? Was it your first championship?
It wasn't my first championship. I would say that was my first major championship. That was my first major championship. Like, as far as on that particular kind of platform in the eyes of the wrestling world, like yeah. So like that was sometimes the realization of things kind of hit me later. I don't really realize what I'm doing until after the fact. Sometimes even like a few months, sometimes a year or so after the fact, like it hit me as far as like what I've accomplished. And that was something that I was joyful. I was joyful. I felt very, very thankful, and for that opportunity, to have won that major title. And it wasn't until like after the fact that I realized, man, Roderick Strong held this title. Seth Rollins, he held this title. Like so many other guys held this very title that I'm holding. So like, and that's how it is. But it was a great feeling. I'm still the current heavyweight champion over a year later. So like, I'm rocking and rolling, man.
And you've defended the belt. You currently still hold it, of course. You've defended the belt against some great names, most impressively Brian Cage. But which of those matches stand out for you when defending the belt?
I'd say the Brian Cage match. I'd say that one definitely hands down. And this is saying a lot considering that I defended that title against AR Fox. I defended that title against Ethan Case. I've had some like great defenses, but the Brian Cage match, due to one, the guy is so freaking. He's 6'3", 280 pounds, solid. You've seen him, like he's a freaking machine. He's a machine. That was a real test. For me as a professional. In this profession, you not only want to be physically ready, but you want to be mentally ready. And it's it's a craft. It's not just it's not just like an athletic thing, but it's really a craft, and that really tested me in that area because I've never worked an opponent that big, that now, and then on that particular platform, and a guy with his kind of, with his, with his own story, being on Lucha Underground, still there, and he's been places, he's still going places. So like that was a real I mean, that one pretty highly regarded in my opinion.
And have you any idea who else has held that title as long as you have? And is it a record you think about even outside of FIP if you end up breaking it?
I'm not sure who's held that title the longest. I know Caleb Conley had a pretty long reign. He reigned for over a year, I believe. I know Rich Swann. I want to say he held the title for about a year. And I believe Samoa Joe held the title for about a year. So like this championship has a history of like some long title reigns, and I'm hoping to extend that much longer, perhaps 2 or 3 years. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And you've gone up against the likes of Marty Scurll, Zack Sabre Jr., TJ Perkins, but which of your matches do you look back on with the fondest memory?
Let's see. Man, there's plenty of them, and for different reasons. The match with TJ Perkins in the Cruiserweight Classic qualifying match. I'm very fond of that match because I learned so much. I learned so much from TJ. He's like, his wrestling IQ is through the roof. So like there was so much I could pick from his brain, and so much I could pick from that match. And that was the match. That was the match where like that third eye they say that we have in pro wrestling, like it really began to like open more. That match, like I was really that was when I was really beginning to find my footing, as a performer. So like that was one. The match with Chris Hero, Mania Weekend. That was another match where, like, for the first time, I worked someone who he was so good, and then but physically he's a bigger guy. He's so good, and he was so over, and at the time, no one really knew who Fred Yehi was. I wasn't really out there like that, and that was the largest crowd I ever worked into. So that there were so many. There was almost like a sensory overload kind of thing. And that was the first time I was in that situation where it was like I was going against all of the odds in a sense. And I remember having like goosebumps because here he is. He's 6'4", 280 pounds. He's super over. He's a fantastic professional wrestler, and the entire crowd is on his side. Like everybody knows everyone is on his side, and here's me, like, and it's like, man, I was in like a sink or swim kind of situation. It's like, hey, well, you have to put your best foot forward, and so aside from that experience alone, being able to pick his brain, it really helped. The Zack Sabre Jr. matches were the same. I had like different experiences with him, just different things I picked up from him. The matches with Drew Gulak, and even the match with Brian, the match with AR Fox. Like, it's different things that I picked up from like different workers. So those are the things I'm most fond of, and that's why it's hard to just narrow it down to like, well, which one was I the most fond of?
Yeah. So you debuted for Evolve on your birthday against Lio Rush, both of you actually making your debut at the same time. How do you look back on the match? Do you look back on it with pure joy because not only did you debut but on your birthday and against Lio Rush, or do you look back on it with mixed feelings because of the eventual outcome?
That match had its own. That match was an experience within itself too. At the time, at the time I wasn't that familiar with Evolve Wrestling, but I was, and I think a lot of that had to do with just where I was. Like at that time, I was really trying to get out. My goal was to get on with Ring of Honor. Like I did the seminar to try out, and I really, really, really wanted to be on Ring of Honor, and then I really, really, really wanted to go to Japan. And I was at a point where I felt kind of stuck. Like I was trying to get out of Georgia and trying to get out to like a different audience and get on like better shows and face like better opponents. That's no shine on that's no knock on any of the workers here in Georgia, but I wanted to face better people and have better material to push around so I could actually get somewhere. And then from doing the work at Anarchy Wrestling, that opened up the opportunity for Evolve, and that was a situation where I had no idea what I got myself involved in. I had never worked in front of a Smart Mark crowd. Never worked in front of a Smart Mark crowd. And one of the differences between a Southern indie crowd, a Smart Mark crowd, or even like a Northern crowd, was the sound. I was so used to hearing women and children in the crowd, like "Go Fred, go!" I'm used to hearing that, but with the Smart Mark crowd, I remember we were fifth on the card, and we were actually following the matchup between it was the tag match Zack Sabre and Sami Callihan versus Chris Hero and Tommy N. And I remember up until our match, we would hear this roar coming from the freaking venue. This is awesome. All that stuff. I'm hearing all this stuff, and I began to question myself, like, man, like, what are they out there doing? Like what are they doing? And I had to step out and just watch. I'm like, man, okay, I see what they're doing, but like, how are they doing this, and how are they getting the crowd to react this way? Because I don't know if I can get them to react this way. I don't know if I can do that. Like, this is like levels beyond like me. Like I don't have the experience, and we have to follow that. So like that was my experience with that. So I wanted to feel. I did feel a little fear in that aspect because I was sure of myself, but due to the lack of experience at that level, I began to kind of question myself. But that's when courage kicks in, and the best thing I could do was my best, and that's what I did, and luckily it landed me a spot, with Evolve, and yeah, so that was the experience with that one. And then with it being on my birthday too, I thought that was like something else as well. So that was a bit of a cool thing on my birthday. So.
And for the viewers at home that are not entirely up to date with Evolve, could you just please run them through the stable of yourself, Drew Gulak, Matt Riddle, and Tracy Williams that was known as Catchpoint, and sort of what it was all about and what ended up going wrong in the end?
So Catchpoint was a group of wrestlers. Myself, Drew Gulak, Matt Riddle, TJ Perkins, and Tracy Williams. We identified with, pro wrestling at its purest form. Hence the philosophy of Catchpoint. Catchpoint is like, you seize that opportunity during the match to basically regain control, and you beat your opponent. The founder of that particular philosophy, as Gulak, began to sink his feet deeper in the WWE, that began to cause like dissension within the group, because he questioned whether Catchpoint could continue without him. And Tracy Williams was able to prove him wrong. Catchpoint continued on. It still continues on. I'm no longer a part of the group. more changes happen. Tracy Williams and I, we were the tag team champions. We lost those titles. We were questioning the loyalty of Matt Riddle because Riddle was off doing his own thing. He eventually broke away from the group when Tracy Williams added Stokely Hathaway to the mix, he's not really the most likable guy. That pretty much did it in for me, and I left the group. So Catch Point currently is at 3 members. 4 members. You want to include Stokely Hathaway, possibly a 5th member with Timothy Thatcher. We're just waiting to see how that's going to develop.
And was the Evolve Tag Team Championships the biggest one of your career?
The Evolve Tag Team titles? Oh yes, definitely. That was definitely a major title. After winning the FIP World Title, a few months later, I won the Evolve Tag title. So it was pretty cool to hold 2 titles, being a double champion under that brand. So that was pretty cool. That was pretty awesome.
And now that you're a single star, how long do you think it'll be until you see yourself dethroning Zack Sabre Jr.? Of course, you were unlucky last time, but if there is a rematch soon enough, will that be the day that Fred Yehi becomes Evolve champion?
That's a very, very strong possibility, but that's in the hands of the WWN officials. They want to give me that opportunity because I came darn close to Atlanta. So if the opportunity presents itself again, then I'm pretty sure that I'm more than capable, and I believe that I will take that strap from Zack Sabre Jr. if he's champion during the time. So I believe that that's something that's definitely in the Fred Yehi forecast.
And now it's just time to move on to the fan questions. A lot of these were actually sent to me on Twitter DMs. So I think that would mean that these people want their names mentioned. I don't know. Once again, just like last Friday, I'll not actually mention their names. But in future, if you do or do not want me to mention your name, just leave it with the question. So the first one is, I'd like to know what advice you can give those in backyard wrestling who are aiming to make it in the pro wrestling business.
I'll give you similar advice that Mick Foley actually gave the guys at the last. It was a GWC tape, and I've mentioned that before. I'll touch back on that again. But he was saying basically, believe in yourself and never give up. Like that sounds very, very cliche, and you hear it all the time. But it's real, and like that's something that I lived out. I had to walk that through myself. Believe in yourself and never give up. Like wrestling was something that I always wanted to do. I got into backyard wrestling mainly part because I could not afford training. I could not afford actual training during the time. I didn't have $1,000 to train at the WWA 4 in Atlanta, and I didn't know of any other wrestling schools anywhere else. So, and they had a camera and a trampoline. That was a place where I could kind of put my dream to practice. And then, later finding a wrestling ring, and people were frowning up on it. Oh, backyard wrestling is backyard wrestling that. Like if wrestling is something that you really, really, really want to do, then by all means, you do whatever you can to water that crop. You do whatever you can. You water that seed, man, and then it will grow and it will turn into something else. So yeah, like believe in yourself and never give up. And then of course there are other things along with that, as far as be humble, be ready to learn. Understand that you can learn from any person and from any situation. You can always learn something. Yeah. Say your prayers as well. Pray, have faith. That carried me through as well. So that's what I would tell. That's what I would tell anyone. Really, not just with wrestling, but with anything they want to do.
And the next one is, it's something you've already touched on, but I may as well give this guy the credit. My question would be, favorite person you have ever worked with?
Favorite person I've ever worked with? There's a few. I can't narrow it down to just one. Cedric Alexander would be one. Casey Kincaid, he was on. He was. You could find him on the BHW channel. That's another. Another guy would be Shane Marks. He's also on the BHW channel. TJ Perkins was another one. Hopefully I can, run into him again in the future. Let's see. Cal Matthews, that's another guy. Ethan Case. Marty Skrull is someone I like to get in the ring with again. Especially at the place that I'm at now, like just the experience, everything that I have now. Experience level that I'm at now, like I would love to like get in there with him again. Gulak was a lot of fun to be in there with. Ricochet, he was another one. So like those are some of the guys I could just. I'm sure there are others too, but I would just kind of be going on and on and
on. So now the next few are all sort of backyard wrestling themed. What inspired you to do backyard wrestling?
Well, what inspired me to do backyard wrestling was, it was the dream. It was just the dream and the desire to want to wrestle. To wrestle in front of a large crowd and make a lot of money doing it one day. So that was the inspiration, behind doing it. And then of course, as a teenager, we would see the backyard wrestling videos over the internet, and we would buy the DVDs and the VHS, like the best of backyard wrestling, and we would see guys our age were a little older out there, and it seemed like so much. Like, it looked unsafe, but it seemed like so much fun. That especially that people here we're watching what they're doing. So like it just seemed like a whole lot of fun, and like that got us out there just to to do it. Be in front of a camera and just have fun. So like all those things were like inspiring enough for me to get out there and actually do
it. Do you support BYW, backyard wrestling?
Do I support it? A large part of me does. A large part of me does because that's where I came from. Like that was part of my path. So I definitely wouldn't like crap on where I came from. So like I support it. I support it more so if it's something that you genuinely love to do. Man, I'm not mad at you. If it's something that you do because that's something that you wrestling is something that you really, really, really want to do, I'd say get your use out of it. But then yes, definitely seek professional training. So it's not the group I mentioned a few times earlier, the GWC, like they run tapings like every other weekend. I'm going to the taping like this weekend just to go check it out. It's more like a social event for me. Like I just like to go there, hang out, and watch and have a good time. So yes, a large part of me does support it. If there's anything I would have like caution about it, just be careful. Be careful. Like it's your body. And of course, like even with pro wrestling, I mean, it's my body that's out there. But the fact that it's backyard wrestling and most guys are not trained, you want to be careful because it's your body. You only have one body, so get your use out of it. If you want to become a professional wrestler, then get your use out of that experience and go on and get training. But if it's something that you love to do because you're adrenaline junkie, or you just have a hot threshold for pain, I ain't mad at you. Go ahead, do your thing. So that's my take on it.
And do you still watch backyard wrestling from time to time?
Do I watch it? Oh yes, definitely. Heck yeah. I definitely watch it. I still watch it. Yeah, I still watch.
Out of interest, are you familiar with sort of today's top guys? Like are Are you familiar with the concept best in the yard?
Best of the yard. I have heard of best of the yard. I'm somewhat, kind of, sort of familiar with it. My own idea, like who's the best in the yard. I'm not sure if he's still active. I don't know. I'm not really sure. Are you familiar with Matt DeMorris?
If I'm honest, I am, but I think I'm familiar with him from just scrolling through the channel of your old matches. I wouldn't be able to tell you the first thing about him other than the fact that you have gone against him in backyard wrestling, and I could probably even tell you when, but I'm not very familiar with the guy himself.
Okay, yeah, I've never faced him, never met him in person, but I watched his work, and I remember as a backyard wrestler, and even as a professional, like yeah, I'm still impressed with his work. Like, check him out, Matt DeMorris. I believe he's out in like the New Jersey, New York area, but yeah, definitely check him out. Like, I'm not sure if he's still active now, but I mean, the dude he's got to give credit where it's due. Like, he's
I mean, are you familiar with guys like? Are you familiar with KBW?
With who now?
KBW in Alabama.
KBW. I'm not that familiar with them. No.
They got about 140,000 subscribers.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Holy crap! Now my good friend Daniel Kahn Nelson, the California kid, he may be familiar with them because I know he really follows, and anytime I go over to hang out, whatnot, he catches me at the speed with some of the groups he talks to over line. And of course he's doing the editing for the GWC Intensity. Yeah. Who I really want to put that group over to, by the way. They just came off of they stumbled across a bit of an opportunity about a week or two ago. A filming production out in California had been watching GWC Intensity for a while and wanted to do a film on backyard wrestling. They actually got some of our GWC guys, and they bought Jake the Snake and Mick Foley along to do this shoot. And one of the GWC guys, Tony James, who you should probably contact for an interview to talk to him about this. I think that'd be great for your podcast.
Yeah.
He ended up getting like an actual role in this film. So yeah, his name is Tony James. But he got a role in this film, and yeah, it was a great week for the entire group.
Yeah, so I think KBW started around when your channel was in its prime. They started around 2010 and kind of got big around 2013, 14. They're not uploading anymore, but their two main guys have gone pro now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, one of them who I had, by the time this comes out, I had last Monday on the show, AK-47. He's not so much pro as much as the other guy. He's now a YouTube gamer. But the other one, Cage, who in the indie scene goes by Fuego del Sol, has wrestled some amazing guys.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to tell you. I know he holds 2 championships, but I don't know what championships they are or where they are.
Okay, man, I wish I could talk to them and see how they got their subscribers. 140,000 subscribers.
Yeah,
I wish I could talk to them. See what they did, because that's pretty awesome.
Are you familiar with VTW or UWE or BEW in New York?
BEW sounds very familiar. I'm more so familiar with the 2KW because of their whole concept. They use the playground.
Yeah.
As like their ring. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then later but I do recall the BEW. I do recall that.
There was 2 BEWs. Myron Reed was in 1BEW. And I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, he was in 1BEW, but that's long gone, and there's a BEW in New York nowadays. I think Myron Reed's had like 4 or 5 thousand subscribers. Maybe I think it could have even been like 7. But okay. The next fan question isn't backyard wrestling related at all. It's your favorite childhood / early memory at a live wrestling event.
My favorite or earliest childhood memory. My earliest childhood memory of a live wrestling event would be when I was about 3 or 4 years old, give or take, and I had gone to a WCW event in Florida, at the Ocean Center, and this is during a time where you had Vader, Sting, Rick Rude, Dustin Rhodes, Cactus Jack, all those guys. Even I think Sid Vicious was there he was doing his little stint there as well. Yeah. I remember that. I remember Too Cold Scorpio walking by. He walked right by me and he said, "What's up?" He said, "What's up?" to me, and I remember thinking at the time, like, man, like, television doesn't do these guys any justice. Like, they look smaller on television, especially as a kid. Like as like a 3-year-old, I couldn't really grasp that. Hey, he's not really that big. Or he's actually bigger than that. You could see it even on a TV monitor. But I remember seeing Tuco Scorpion. I thought he was fat. When I look back on it, he was just that freaking big, just that jacked. I remember Rick Rude walking by and just being a complete snob. Like, I remember that. And, I remember when Vader and Sid Vicious came out, and it was, Sid was, he was the ruler of the world and all this kind of. I was scared, man. I was scared, and I was like, those are like some of like that. That's like my earliest memory of like a live pro wrestling event, like that WCW event in Florida.
This next one makes.
It was great.
This next one makes absolutely no sense to me, but maybe you understand it. Why were you not eventually allowed to be in the car? Do you understand that?
Eventually not allowed to be in the car.
CAR.
I don't know what that means.
No. That makes no sense to me. But he has 2 other questions that do make sense. So, would you like to go to Britain and work for a British company?
Oh, heck yeah! That's one of my that's like my dream is to go overseas, over to the UK. That's where it is, man. I would love to go to the UK. Yeah, I would love to be over in the UK.
And he also says, just as a part 2, if so, what promotions?
What promotion? I would love to go to PCW. I think that would be like the first choice. I would love to do Progress. I would love to do that. I would love to do Rev Pro. Those are like my 3. So yeah, but really anywhere in the UK, like, I would be honored to wrestle anywhere in the UK, honestly, for the overseas experience, just within itself. And then they do have like a lot of great wrestling there.
So that's the fan questions done. Just back to the normal sort of conversation. Out of everyone in the world today that you've never ever gone up against in the ring, who would you, if you could do like a top 5, who are your dream opponents?
Shinsei Nakamura. That's one. I would say Triple H. Some of my guys are dead and gone. I would love to get in there with Eddie Guerrero. Chris Jericho, like a younger Chris Jericho. I would love to get in there with him. And I'd say the last one would be Sammy Callahan. So like those would be like my top 5. Of course, there are like others too. Like there's others who could easily be in that top 5. Like if Shawn Michaels were still active now, if Daniel Bryan were still active now, Dolph Ziggler would be another guy. A younger Finley. Like there are like other guys I would love to be in the ring with. Mitsuharu Misawa, if he were still alive and active, he would be another guy. So there's a pretty extensive list. The Dynamite Kid, yeah. So like there are a lot of guys who I would love to, would have loved to have had the opportunity and would love to have the opportunity to like get in there and mix it up with.
And how much and what wrestling do you watch if you ever manage to get some free time?
I try to watch a lot of I try to watch NXT because of training and just not having enough hours in a day. I end up missing like a lot of Raw. I end up missing SmackDown, unfortunately, too. But I do try to at least catch NXT. I try to catch the pay-per-views. I'm currently in the second match of a Battleground. So like I've been watching, trying to catch up on that.
It doesn't get much better from there.
aside from that, like any matches that are getting like a lot of buzz, or if there's like any guys who I just kind of feel like watching, I'll just easily just get on the YouTube and watch things and watch matches. Like I try to watch like stuff from the UK. Of course, I watch the things that go up on the WWE network. With the Flow Slam.
Yeah.
And of course, I have a small wrestling library. So yeah, I always go back and I watch that stuff too. So I try to get my share of studying in. I'm really, I really try to do that like every week. So yeah.
And in future, say this very day, what date is it? The 28th of July, 2018. Would you rather main event an NXT TakeOver show or main event the Tokyo Dome?
Oh my goodness. That's a hard question to answer. That's a hard question to answer. There are pros and cons to both. If I main event the NXT TakeOver, that's freaking great. That's an accomplishment within itself, and that I can only look up from there. Like I know I can expect to eventually go to the Raw brand or the SmackDown brand. I know everyone's going to see it. If I main event the Tokyo Dome, I know that I can pretty much, like, they're going to give me a whole bunch of time. Whole bunch of time, but I know the money's going to be great either way. So that's a hard one. That's kind of a toss up. That's kind of a toss up, honestly. That's a toss up. Like, my brain would explode if I were given that choice.
Want to be a champion like Fred Yehi? Well, then you have to start your day with the breakfast of champions. These other cereals are for wussies. Only Wheaties has the fuel you need to jumpstart your metabolism. Be a champion, eat your Wheaties, and resurrect some wrestling of your own.
So, people, sorry for the sort of jump. I filled it in with that iconic video, of course, so it wasn't really anything bad for you guys. Slight minor technical issues, but we're back. And we are back for the final question, the signature question. So, Fred Yehi, imagine everything tomorrow. The internet, pro wrestling as a whole, it all shut down, okay? More or less the apocalypse. Anyway, how would you, Fred Yehi, like to be remembered?
I would like to be remembered. I like to be remembered as a God-fearing man. Just a great individual, upstanding guy. I like for people to remember me as a really good person, a really good, genuine, down-to-earth person, driven, hardworking, dedicated. Yeah, those things matter the most, and then, aside from that, a professional, easy to work with, and then as far as wrestling, not just a great wrestler, but a very unique, innovative, out of the box, unorthodox wrestler, worker, unique, one of a kind. So yeah, that's how I like to remember all those things.